The days of redemption are at hand. Georgia went blue, it came through, and the classic capital was overrun, and the veil has been lifted. The foes of the righteous will be condemned. Repent, and thou shalt be saved.
My name is Charles. It's January 11, 2021, and 5 days ago we watched the Capitol be overrun live on television, and the world went silent. When that silence was broken, it was broken with one question. What was that? So after the Capitol was overrun, it took a while for, emotions and thoughts to settle in, because it was pretty shocking to see. And we have to bring up the race again. Now, trying to figure out that question, we have to separate people from the idea, because it's ideas that cause these type of things to happen. So we have to separate people from the ideas, meaning not all white people are bad. Not everybody's bad. There's bad people all over the place. It's the ideas, the bad ideas, that cause problems for us. So we need to get that out the way. This is not about calling each other names and defriending each other on your social media accounts, because both sides need to hear what's going on, and we need to talk about this. We have to define what's going on, because there's also a change in the definitions of the very same words that we use. We can say the same things, but they are defined differently. If we do that as a society, if we change the very language that we use, then we can't understand one another. It's hard. So we have to maintain the definitions of things. We can't just willy-nilly just start changing what stuff means. I mean, what it did to me was bring up a lot of memories and answer a lot of questions I had to, push down. It brought up a lot of anger towards not necessarily people in general, but towards my reaction towards this idea. I've been in places where there's nooses in the corner, and I've been with people that have this type of mentality and thinking, and my feeling was like, well, if I can be here, I'm not afraid of it, and maybe this can help change and stuff like that. But I'm angry at the fact that I had to convince myself to not be afraid of it, and to just desensitize myself to it. I'm angry about that. With the being able to get searched by a police officer for no reason and then walking away like it ain't no big deal. I'm angry that I molded myself that way. Aside from the way it made me feel personally, we have to answer the question. So separate the people from the ideas. So what I did was just try to define the words that people were using, like conservative, liberal, and socialism, communism, and all that. That's why I threw down the dictionary, trying to figure out what stuff means. What does conservative mean? It means adverse to change and innovation. Holds on to traditional values. What does liberal mean? Liberal means willing to respect or accept behavior or opinions different from one's own, open to new ideas, relating or denoting to political and social philosophy that promotes individual rights, civil liberties, democracy, and free enterprise. So I want to encourage others to find out what stuff means. But what we saw, so we've had this war between fascism and anti-fascism. Now, Antifa is a group of people that have come to the conclusion that the only way to combat violence is with violence. The only way to combat, extremism is through extremism. Now they've been around since, 1920. They directly combat fascism. What is fascism? Fascism is Nazis. I don't think that I need to, explain more. That's everything that you can think of that you can equate with Nazis and racist people. There you go. That's fascism. But now we have to find those two. You know what they are. But we need to talk about what we saw at the Capitol and how they just walked in and then they helped them down the stairs. So we have to talk about our history. We have to recognize what our history was actually about. And I can't help but to talk about how our economy works. And I honestly feel like I already hit this on the head 6 months ago. But capitalism and all that comes into play too. Think about how America started. Okay? We all know how it started. That's just facts, okay? At what point did power balance shift? Who was coming up with the Constitution? Who was setting policies? Now, during this time, we had to figure out, or they had to figure, during that time, they had to figure out how to run an economy with that many people. Now, a question arises where, how do you keep the poor from taking from the rich? Now, we have to come up with they had to come up with the ideas and philosophies on how do you do that. Aristotle suggested you keep that from happening with democracy and balancing out equality through equality. Adam Smith's philosophy was no democracy and keep for the rich. It was, prevent as much democracy as possible and basically dictatorship. In his book, he talks about how he's walking around marketplaces and things like that, and he can see people that are able to be consumers and do whatever they want, and they don't have to labor. And he describes the laborers as basically savages. Then you want to figure out how to keep that going. Well, doesn't really say why those people were able to have money and do whatever the hell they wanted, because their slaves did everything for them. Also says in that book that the masters of mankind are the ones with the most money. Okay. Also says in that book, keep everything for ourselves. With and they describe themselves as the vile maxim, masters of mankind. That book was made an academic requirement in the 1900s. So when we look at what happened at the Capitol, how come they were able to just go in and walk out? And how come we even have the audacity to have a conversation about just letting it happen and walking away from it? Well, how come? At what point was the power shifted? Who do you think has been suffering the most consequences, the most damage through generation here in America? Were they really policing each other or just us? Because what I saw on the 6th was them not policing each other. So all them statistics we was fighting over when BLM came up, I don't think those are correct. That may be the reason why things aren't being reported. It's been a power struggle since the dawn of our time. It's said that the Constitution and all that was set up to where the power could not be shifted. That's why we have this crazy uproar right now is because in the very definition of conservative is adverse to change and innovation. Well, now, the rest of us continue to change and innovate. Here we are. Thinking differently, open to new ideas, new mindsets, thinking about one another. The power is shifting. The power balance is shifting. Now all of a sudden that privilege ain't gonna be able to get you up there and get millions and make and suck off the pack or funnel off the taxes that us laborers and stuff pay in for their own nefarious stuff, and they don't pay back into the economy. See what I'm saying? That this is why this is that's the reason why I believe that they were able to go in there and walk out. It's because they were set up to do that since before we were even born. It's a result of teaching generation to generation to generation to be selfish as possible, and then the rest of us to not pay attention to it, to pay attention to it, and just continue to be consumers. We think that that's success. Give our money back to them, and they don't pay us anything. It's like, that's why I think that they were the mental part about it, the cognitive connection to it. When they walked out and then got in trouble, and they're like, wait a minute, I don't understand why I'm getting in trouble. I honestly think that that's because, holy crap, they educated themselves since the dawn of the century, since the dawn of American kind, to be selfish as possible, and then no consequences, dealt with. All the dealing and consequences and laws are for everyone else, immigrants, legal aliens, and all that stuff. And then that's another thing. That's a language that we use. Talking about other people, we call them anything other than a human. So we easily can look at other people and call them terrorists. That's just the shit that we've been fed forever, not knowing that they're human and there's actual things they're doing, like seeking asylum, and then we turn away from that, But then here we have an actual act of terrorism done by those very same people that taught us this stuff. And we were like, what? It's hard for us to view that as an act of terrorism because that's our family, friends, neighbors. Then they waved the American flag and talk about freedom and patriotism, and we're like, well, but that's not what that's supposed to be. That's not what freedom's supposed to be, man. The idea is not that we would want you to go do that and get killed, okay? But we have to talk about the fact that if anyone else of color would have done that underneath the same premise, underneath the same idea, saying the same thing, waving the same American flag, they'd have got murdered. Because we've been conditioned to think that way. They conditioned themselves to think that way since before they were even born. To maintain the power struggle is to be selfish as possible. That's the idea. That's the whole idea of it. Now, if you do that, don't you think that would leave a lasting effect on the human mind? Do you know what I'm saying? Passing that down through generation. Because like I'm trying to understand how these people go in there, commit an act of terrorism that we would define as terrorism if it was done by anyone else. And then they come out and be like, oh, I don't understand what the problem is. Well, what do you mean? Could that have anything to do with fucking hundreds of years of no consequences? The statistics are wrong. They let them get away with terrorism and help them down the stairs. They brought bombs to places to blow up. People died. They didn't have to die. Like they didn't have to die. Like their own lives and the way is resulted in people dying. And it doesn't have to be that way. That's another reason why, like, it upsets me, is because it's like a lot of us aren't out here just for like colored people. We're out here for them too. We're like trying to bring to light, like look, like when the BLM thing popped off in Seattle, I started talking about things that were happening to white people. You know what I mean? And a lot of things that I had said has been twisted into different stuff because people redefine our language. So it makes it even more difficult to understand one another. But I started talking about those kids that were chopped up and put in the bags on the west shores of Seattle. Nobody really gave a crap about that. They're just like, we just need to stop these guys trying to stand up against police brutality. I'm like, but wait a minute, guys. How cognitively distant are you? You know what I'm saying? Because in that very same time, in September, an autistic white boy, unarmed, little child, was shot by a police officer. Okay? I try to bring that to light. It's like, look, it's the police brutality we need to stop. We need to figure out why these guys are resorting to killing people first. You know what I'm saying? But then nobody was like, no. This is more important, stopping these people standing up against police brutality rather than actually, it's like, but it's happening to you guys too. Like, come on, what are you doing? Standing up against this. It's happening to you too. Where's your march for your people? I see, black people doing that shit. You can even look up black on black crime and see a whole lot of stuff on that. See people in the black community trying to bring light to black on black crime and things like that. But you ever try to look up people trying to bring light to white on white crime? You see black people trying to bring light to white on white crime. But do you ever see like we see in the black community like that? How is it that you ever ask yourself how we can sit back and watch Forensic Files there's like 200 series or 200 seasons? How is it we can sit back and watch all of that, but then still be more afraid of people of color? Not trying to convince you to be afraid. I'm trying to bring to light a cognitive dissonance. How is it that most atrocities that have been committed on American soil have been done by right-wing extremists, and still we don't have this, especially since we separate ourselves with culture? We can't really get rid of that now. It's here. How come they haven't been like, hey, we need to get some shit in check? See what I'm saying? Is it because of a result of no consequences and having the power since the beginning? They can walk up in there, come back out, and be like, wait a minute, I don't understand why I'm in trouble. But everybody else knows I would have been dead and in trouble if I did that. In trouble or dead. There's something in here that's missing. It's almost as if if you don't use it, you lose it type of thing. And it gets passed down through generation. It's a dangerous form of cognitive dissonance that people as individuals do to themselves, and this the institution is designed to make us do this to ourselves. We're designed to shift focus on something else. Mainly, it's shifting focus to personal interests. Like, oh, well, I ain't got time for that. Somebody else will deal with it. I got bills to pay and stuff like that. Somebody else, man. We're designed to do that stuff. We're designed to not pay attention to one another. That's the way the institution is designed. And so we don't know what these what these masters of mankind are doing. It's the veil, like I pointed out 6 months ago. It's the same reason why people can say things to me like, if you when we had that, when the attack on the Muslims was happening, and they were needing to be registered and stuff like that, I was asked the question: if you had a carton of eggs and one of them is bad, would you still get the carton of eggs? Now that's an analogy to blanket a whole entire type of people, okay? The worst atrocities that have been committed on American soil have been done by white people. More than even extreme Islamic, Al-Qaedism, whatever that is. More than even that. If I follow that analogy, then I can't be friends with white people. See what I'm saying? There's a certain level of cognitive dissonance that keeps a veil even over their eyes. So it's not even like, this is not about, differentiating people and separating. This is something we have to, this is a problem we have to deal with. You know what I mean? For human sake, for humans. These people are still humans. Do you know what I mean? Even though like they be Nazis and stuff like that, but they're fed this stuff. So it's like we have to figure out how. I know that it's difficult because the very definition of conservative is adverse to change or innovation. So what I found to start to be able to have an intelligent conversation at least sometimes is to not respond with not respond or engage in the name calling and the anger and stuff like that. And I know that it's extremely difficult. I would be lying if I haven't engaged in such things. But if you maintain the actual definitions of stuff and try to have an intelligent conversation on things, you can achieve this. You can with both sides. And then the thing that contributes to the positive change is being aware of that. Being aware of when that occurs. When you're able to talk to what is supposed to be our opponent. You're able to talk to them and have an intelligent conversation. There's even things that I didn't even know about if I didn't talk to conservatives. You know what I'm saying? Liberals and things like that. If I didn't talk to them, like, the language thing. The language thing was brought to my attention by a conservative. And I'm like, that's an extremely good point. Hey, guess what? I would be considered a leftist in your crew. We just had an intelligent, civil conversation. And we were able to agree with one another and bounce ideas off one another and think together. So when you say this shit doesn't work, we just did it. See what I'm saying? It's important to not cognitively distance yourself. And I know that all of this stuff is super stressful. That's because we've ignored it for so long. We've cognitively distanced ourselves from it for so long. When you finally step through the veil, it's a freaking mess. So yeah, it's stressful. It's heavy. But we got to clean that shit up. There is no, snap your fingers, fix it now type of thing. This is something that each individual has to decide within themselves in order to create the cognitive connection between one another, the cognitive understanding of one another. Okay? But there does need to be preventative measures to keep this shit from happening. We cannot allow people to believe that they can do this and get away with it. There has to be consequences. You know what I'm saying? That's the only way we're gonna learn. Those people are gonna learn. You know what I mean? They need to learn. So, it's unfortunate that some of you blindly followed a bad decision. But then there's plenty of them that knew exactly what they're doing and wanted terrorism and keep the power shifted in their balance. So we have to make sure that there's policies and restrictions to keep people from destroying our democracy. We have to make sure that these large companies and CEOs contribute back to society, because when their non-contribution, as we're doing all of this shit, creates anger. People are mad. People are mad because they're not getting paid for their stuff. You tell them you're giving them jobs, but you ain't paying them to do those jobs. They get mad. When you can't, when there isn't a visible and a obvious contribution to the economy and the society, change to society, then people are going to uprise. That's the way it's been since forever. And the rules and policies that have been set into place is to keep people from doing that, to balancing out the power. Why people keep you from unionizing? It's because they can't siphon off all of your money. These rich people, they get to borrow from us, because from the taxes that we pay, put into the banks, because the money that we put into the banks is used as credit and given to people as loans and stuff like that, and then it's supposed to be given back and blah blah blah. But they don't have to pay taxes. We pay all the taxes they take from us, then they don't have to give it back. That's what has happened through the right-wing rule. This is done. They done this to us. You know what I'm saying? That's what's happened through the right-wing ideology, the Republican idea, and holding on to this old conservative, traditional type values of whatever. So that's my thoughts on that. I think it's just a result of hundreds of years of not suffering consequences and teaching your own children to be selfish as shit. You know what I mean? It's a result of that. It's people holding on to those old traditional values that the country was established on. We never had democracy. It wasn't designed to have actual democracy. If that were the case, how come we have never ever helped the people closest to us, Mexico? Instead, what they did was put up a wall. See, that's what's happening right now. The veil has been lifted. People see it now. They know what's going on. Now the power balance is shifting, and their American dream might not be possible in the future. What's up? That's what I think that is. As far as my thoughts of the future, I'm scared. You know what I mean? It is scary. It's terrifying. It's but I'm also really hopeful, and I'm glad that the veil has been lifted. You know, I'm glad that people see what it's actually like now. I'm glad that people, I'm glad that the change is coming, and I hope that we take the world by storm, man. Because I'm tired of this adverse to change, adverse to innovation. Because I'm trying to get out in the cosmos and stuff, man. I'm trying to discover and invent and learn new stuff. So that's not going to work for me. But it is scary what these guys are doing. Attacking capitals all over the place. It's scary for me as a black man. It's scary because I've already dealt with racism and shit for no reason, and now it's like they're amped the fuck up. So yeah, it's scary as a black man. I'm hopeful, and I still want to try, still want to talk, still want to try to spread the love. I don't think that, really though, it's because white folk they haven't hugged each other for fucking thousands of years. They just give you money, and then people grow up not giving a shit but about anything but money. It's like I try to talk to people on the other side. I try to absorb as much information as I can from both sides, both perspectives, a gang of news outlets and things like that. And when I talk to people, like about the COVID shutdowns, for instance, talk to a man about COVID shutdowns, for instance, and them standing up against having to wear a mask and still wanting to go out to restaurants and run their business and stuff like that and getting money. There's a whole lot of factors to that whole thing, but I just want to talk about the conversation I had with this man. I'm trying to tell him, like, trying to explain to him, it's like I understand that you want to keep running your business and making money because people are still collecting. I understand that. That's a whole institutional problem, but we are in the middle of a pandemic, and a huge reason why you're being shut down is to protect human life. That is also includes your life. So if you die, you won't have your business anymore. Do you see what I'm saying? If people die in your establishment, you will lose business. So it's actually trying to be beneficial for you. If this were used in any other case, and there wasn't a pandemic, and people weren't dying, then yeah, that would definitely be communism. But there's a huge factor to this. It's a pandemic. So this is what this man says to me. He says, people dying shouldn't dictate how other people live their lives. That's like total disregard to human life. Okay? But then he wants us to respect his demand to run his business. But then he doesn't give a crap about human life, period. That's a personal conversation that I had with that man. That is similar to, I don't know if you've seen the viral video of the guy with the pink headband and the mask on his neck, not on his mouth. It's just here. It's on his neck. I don't understand that. Anti-maskers, you got the mask on your face, but it's on your neck instead. Similar to what he said. He said, people die, your grandfather isn't anything special. At the same time, screaming this, demanding respect about not wearing a mask. And that's just the thing. It's like it's a good thing that there are people out there that don't say that same thing and told us to wear a mask, because if they shared the same feeling, all of those people that told us to wear a mask, the doctors and people that care about humanity, if they would have thought the same, they could have just said, people die, you're nothing special. But instead they asked you to wear a mask. Be grateful that they at least asked you to wear a mask. I mean, I'm grateful that they didn't think like you and said, people die, you're nothing special. Put on the mask. Start screaming about wearing a mask is against their right to speak. What were you trying to say before this? Who are you talking to? So, I'm also left with this question. How can you answer this question that's in uncharted territory that no one can really answer? So how can you say that that's the correct answer? That's another thing that I feel like is a self conflict, because I'm like, not only coming out from this veil that I've been in for so long, but it's Don't know if this is the correct answer, if this is why this is or not, because I've been in that veil for so long. Let's talk about this. Let's not defriend our friends and stuff like that if they think differently or whatever. That's not how we need to do this. That doesn't represent the love well. You know what I'm saying? So come to the end of this video. I really want to give my condolences to everyone who's been affected by all this, alive and dead. I have a heaviness on me. It's almost like it feels like I wish I could have been there, and I wish I knew the answers, and I feel sorry and guilty for the cognitive dissonance and things like that. And I don't think that an apology is even can never be enough, So I guess all I really can say is keep trying to say is that I love you, and we can do this together. Let's try to figure this stuff out, and we got to keep loving each other. That's what we got to do. We got to remind each other what love is. So in conclusion, thank you for listening. Comment if you want, and share if you want. We might be able to be helpful. So I love you. Take care of yourselves. Please wear your masks. Please think about humans, kind. Think about everyone around the world, man. What's most important? And again, to everyone that's been affected by all of this emotionally, you feel heavy and you don't know what to do. You're scared of the future, or if you have family members that have died, or even if you've experienced, just hatred and stuff like that. All this stuff, the people that were denied asylum, the Muslims and people that are Islamic and the Mexicans that were denied asylum, the wall. My condolences. I can't even begin to explain the heaviness that I feel for you people. Even the extreme right wing, a part of me is like, my God, what have people done to you? So yeah, that's what I got. I love you. Take care of yourselves. My name is Charles. I'll catch you next time.